Bon dia! What's up, mortals? It's Shara Zor-El here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 2 of What If Shinso Was an Assassin. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. The years had flown by, and the little raptor was almost ready to fly. Hey, that rhymes! Hard to believe that it had been 10 years since Shinso Hitomi had been brought into the Brotherhood of Assassins under the mentor, Ezio Auditore da Firenze. She thought she had inherited her mother's quirk. She was not allowed to use it until today. Today was to be her promotion to discepolo, or disciple. The girl had grown into her own. Her once porcelain white skin had now become an exotic olive due to her extensive training outdoors. Her full-volume lavender hair, when let down, was just past her shoulders. Were it not for her purple, almost gray eyes, one would truly believe she was a true native. Her body was slender and taut with lean muscle. Shinso had pushed herself to become ahead of her peers, and now it was about to pay off. Atop of a very indistinguishable tower to the far south of Florence's city limits, the little raptor and her mentor stood looking out into the city.
Today you will track down a man from Japan.
The mentor told her.
He is to meet with the head of the Corleone family.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The mentor then took the little raptor back inside. It was dark, with only a small fire pit illuminating the room. Though it may seem as if the two were alone, every so often a shadow, multiple in fact, could be seen once before vanishing into the dark. The mentor then laid his hand upon the girl that was to be promoted.
Make sure he never makes this deadly alliance come to light.
Ezio then motioned her to a long box set upon a makeshift altar.
La mia preciosa y bellissima nobole.
Ezio had slipped into grandfather mode, her nonnino.
This is your final chance to walk away.
He then pulled down his hood so she could look into his coffee-colored eyes.
Once you take this allegro di manico, you will no longer be a child.
Shinso could see it in his eyes. He had always given her a choice. Ezio truly did not want this life for his adopted. No, not adopted. She was more than that. She was his granddaughter, and he loved her as such. Even his own blood daughters had become Shinso's Zia, her aunts. I choose to do this, Mentore. Ezio closed his eyes, then took a moment to compose himself and take a breath. As he was about to pull up his hood when she embraced him. Perdonami, mio amato nonnino. Forgive me, but I must. I have to. Ezio held on to her as if this would be his last time, and in a way, it would, after today. Waking up from nightmares, only for him to chase them away as he held her in his arms. He then took the long box and placed it under his arm, as if trying to hide it. Memories of all the warm noonday summers with her. After her extensive training, they could be seen walking into his vineyard as they ended their day with espresso in his garden.
I can take this burden from you. Tutto cosino non devi. All of it.
Shinso hugged Ezio tighter, but he could also feel her shaking her head. No. Ezio then took a shaky breath, slowly breaking their embrace, as he then pulled up the hood of the mentor again. At this, Shinso gave him her left arm. Realizing her fervent conviction, the mentor then put down the box he was carrying and opened it. Shinso's eyes narrowed as the talon of the Brotherhood, the hidden blade, was revealed.
Hitomi Shinso, you have proven yourself worthy of this test.
The mentor carefully opened up the leather gauntlet, placing it on Shinso's left forearm in it.
Today, commit to uphold the pillars of our creed. Where other men blindly follow the truth, remember.
Nothing is true. Shinso replied as the mentor tightened the first strap and then the next.
Where other men are limited by morality or law, remember.
The mentor then took a breath as a single tear dropped onto her arm. Everything is permitted, Shinso replied as she took a sudden breath as the mentor tightened the last strap.
We work in the dark to serve the light.
Both Shinso and the mentor then looked up at each other.
We are assassins.
After the small ceremony, Shinso tested her talon once, with a single flick of her wrist, and without a single sound, the long, dark blade shot out from its sheath. She could feel its weight. Though it was not heavy enough to throw off her balance, it would still require adjustment on her part. Learning to wield all those daggers and short swords now makes sense. With another flick of her wrist, the blade retracted back into its sheath. No sound, only a slight tug. This will take some getting used to.
Andiamo.
The mentor told her with a rising gesture of his hand, to which the novice obeyed and took the leap of faith off the tower. Shinso's right gauntlet had a small but powerful hook attached to it. As she descended about halfway down the tower, she used the hook to snag a cable and zip-line down upon a roof. She leapt off the cable and landed in a roll. In the distance, she could swear she heard a cheer from Ezio. She got up with a slight giggle as she ran forward, parkouring among the many buildings, roofs, and down the sides of walls. Parkour! As she landed on the ground, she ducked into an alleyway. Her uniform could fold down into common street clothes while she wore it. In her case, it was a simple oversized gray coat with a white designer tee. She then pulled up and off her uniform pants, revealing a black short skirt. The pants then zipped up into a mini designer backpack that was big enough to store her throwing knives, smoke screens, her signature telescoping stiletto. The long dagger's blade was done in a tight spiral that ended in a channeled tip. It was the first blade she mastered, and it was her personal favorite. The only thing that mentor gave her was a name, Soji, not to be confused with Shoji with the multiple arms, mind you, and his quirk, bolts. From what she recalled from her training, it was a type of lightning-based quirk. The Brotherhood had to change with the era they were in. For the assassins to be effective, quirk studies became vital to their cause and war with the Order. Throughout the morning and into the afternoon, Shinso gathered intel from several of the who's who in the Italian underground. She only knew who they were due to her grandfather and her walking through the city. The Brotherhood was known by many of the families, however. What they did not know was how they operated. The Brotherhood had been around long before any of Italy's underground was even conceived. The very tunnels under the city, and country for that matter, that these mafiosos considered secret, had been built by both the Brotherhood, even the Order itself. Shinso also knew this. It was how she could slip in and out to get the intel she needed. It didn't matter if any of them became suspicious of her. If they followed her, she would just disappear via a Brotherhood passageway. It was now 1800 hours. From what she gathered, Soji was able to arrive via the north entrance. He would then stop at a local cafe, which was conveniently owned by the Brotherhood. It would be here that Shinso would strike. The owner knew who she was, and had kindly given her a uniform already. Plan set in motion, Shinso sipped on an espresso as if she was on a break, and sure enough, Soji entered her domain. Oi, where can I, Soji, get some service? The other waitresses could not understand his language. However, Shinso did. She finished her espresso and the owner gave her a smile, taking it away. Pardon me, Shinso responded, allowing her cheeks to become flushed. The foreigner looked at her in awe, enchanted by her. Shinso was indeed a very elegant young lady. She had curves, but nothing that would take away from the rest of her form. Soji has finally found someone who can understand and speak my noble tongue. He raised his hand, gesturing for her to come closer to the table. I wouldn't know anything about nobility, signore, but my parents were originally from Japan. She had gotten him to open up and confirm his identity. I will gladly take your order, but do be advised. We are about to close up for the evening. You'll close when Soji says you close. He grabbed her and pulled her in close. Espresso, and you will join, Soji. Yes, sir. Right away. Shinso forced herself to blush as she scampered off, making sure to seem extra bouncy. Sure enough, the foreigner liked what he saw. To him, despite the glares all around him, it was normal due to Japan's of-age laws. However, to the room, he was looked on with disgust. He ignored them as Shinso returned with his espresso. He then told her to sit. Shinso took a breath and closed her eyes, focusing her mind. She then opened her eyes to a world covered in grayscale. This was her eagle vision technique. To her target was now shining in gold, while his entourage was steadily glowing a bright red. She had been smart with her planning. Now she could take out her target by any means. So long as it was her doing it, she would be promoted. With the quick twitch of her eyes, unnoticed by Soji, the owner and several of her employees silently dispatched the foreigner's entourage. So tell me, Soji. Shinso focused her gaze upon him and looked at her target directly in the eyes. It was then she took a breath and activated her quirk. What are your plans? Soji froze in place. He could only move his eyes as Shinso got up. Her waitress uniform suddenly changed, returning to her original recruitment uniform. Shinso then blinked her eyes twice, and the world returned to color. In one quick motion, the novice became Discipolo, a disciple in the Brotherhood of Assassins. Soji had come to as blood trickled off the side of his mouth as Shinso laid him down. An assassin. Never thought this would happen. The Yakuza soldier smirked, looking up at her. I am glad I was done in by someone so beautiful. Save your flattery. Her mission was to dispatch him, but he might have some other intel she needed. Tell me, who is the Grand Master of Japan? So, this is what death is like. This was surprising, given his original purpose for coming to Florence. I was actually here to gain allies against him. Unfortunate. Go on. Suddenly, she felt guilty. It was at this moment Soji knew he was her first kill, for he saw it in her eyes. All I know is he's a top hero in Japan, and that he had captured, erased her head for some reason. Soji then coughed up more blood, signaling he was near the end. Taking your first one will haunt you. At the mention of her uncle, Shinso was shaken to her core, putting the thought away. For now, she pulled out a bright white eagle feather. She then dipped it in Soji's blood and put it away on her belt. Missions can have unforeseen events and consequences. Requiescat in pace, Shinso said as she closed his eyes and exited the cafe. Shinso quickly made it back to the Brotherhood's base of operations. As she entered, Shinso walked at an urgent pace. Recruits and guards gave her a wide berth as she made her way to the mentor. She entered his chambers, slamming the feather down on Ezio's desk.
Bene fatto, complimenti.
The mentor then looked up into the eyes of a very angry Shinso.
Cesarere, tell me.
They have him, Ezio! At her mention of Aizawa, the mentor took a breath. You knew!
See, I did.
The mentor then pulled down his hood. She completed the task given. Seeing his actions, Shinso replied angrily, Nonino, why?
Hitomi, what good would it have done you?
Shinso was now livid.
Have you forgotten that he is maestro?
No, I have not! Her words were sharp as they were brazen.
Had I told you, what would you have done? Ignored everything I've taught you? For what, eh?
Ezio then pulled up his hood.
What else did your target reveal?
Ezio was far from stupid. He knew how she got that, and in a way, he took pride in it. He knew she was sharp. However, he needed her to calm down. Shinso knew he was right. What would she have done? She would have most likely done what he just said. However, she was still fuming inside. He was here to gain allies against Japan's Grandmaster. Shinso was still quite livid, but there would be time for that later. How long, Mentore?
That was unfortunate. However, it would have not been favorable for us. A war fought on two fronts would not bode well.
The mentor heard her second question, choosing to respond after letting her regain her senses. Shinso was quickly losing patience, but knew that she had to stifle herself. Nonino or not, he was still the mentor. Her mind was screaming as the mentor finished his thoughts and turned to her. She then took a breath, with the mentor noticing it. She then closed her eyes and composed herself.
3 days.
Ezio said, though his face was still covered by the hood. Hitomi knew he was talking as her Nonino.
I understand your anger, believe me. I know what it is like. You already know what happened to my father and 2 brothers.
Shinso remembered. The Knights Templar had attacked Florence and executed them right in front of him. They did not even spare his youngest brother of 10. It was then he was forced to flee to Monteriggioni in the countryside. There his uncle, Mario, put him down the path of the Brotherhood of Assassins. Hello, it's me, your Uncle Mario! Woohoo!
Hitomi, you are now disciple.
Ezio then adjusted his hood as Shinso placed her left fist on her right shoulder.
You are to return to Japan. If Maestro Aizawa is indeed in need, then work with the Den Master to rescue him. I have already sent word of your impending arrival.
At the mentor's words, Shinso was filled with hope, and her anger dissipated. It was taking everything within her not to jump into her Nonino's arms. That was until he pulled down his hood. She then embraced him once more.
My dear little raptor, you can fly now, and I am so proud of you.
Ezio held her in his arms once more. She was no longer that little frightened girl he took in all those years ago.
Andiamo! Fear no more.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I really hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to say if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the stories of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.